this with Helen Joyce. She's author of Trans, When Ideology Meets Reality. She's also Director of Advocacy at Sex Matters. Thank you so much for joining us, Helen.
Thank you for having me on.
And I saw this. This is actually something that was leaked out to Michael Schellenberger, who has done huge exposés on, just like, government deals with, Twitter over basically suppressing debate in public on COVID and other things. He's exposed a huge amount of stories. He's got a hold of a load of these files from this organisation, which is the World Professional Association for Transgender Health. These are medics, scientists. These are supposed to be the people at the top of the pyramid, advising all the doctors and scientists who are dealing with this issue. We're dealing with often very troubled children, teenagers, adults, concerned about their trans identity. And these are the people advising on the medication, advising even on the surgery that these people have. And he has got hold of documents which show that all is not right. Tell us what these documents reveal.
So it does sound like a very important organisation, doesn't it? World Professional Association. It's actually just a membership body that anyone can join by paying a couple of $100 a year. But there are some of the big gender clinicians in there, along with trans people and lobbyists. And what the files are is some leaked messages from a chat board of members. And it shows that even as WPATH, as people call it, is projecting this aura of this is settled science, it's sound medicine, it's evidence-based, behind the scenes, some of the most high-profile gender clinicians are talking in a way that indicates that they know very well that's not the case. So they're asking questions of each other about, anyone seen this awful side effect? Anyone else noticed that kids come back to you, 5 or 10 years later, telling you that now they want kids, but 10 years ago they said they didn't when you sterilise them, in effect, by putting them on puberty blockers. And every doubt that anybody ever brings up in these chats is just swept aside in the name of it's what they want right now. It's their identity. They lead, we follow. It's literally not medicine that's going on, is what these files show.
Yeah, I mean, that's the really terrifying thing. And this is stuff that has been exposed again and again. We saw what's happened in the Tavistock Clinic in North London, which is the leading clinic for this sort of treatment. And we see again and again, we've had court cases as well, where young people who have said, I think I might be trans, often highly influenced by what they're seeing on YouTube or what their friends are telling them. There's a massive sort of social contagion issue at schools as well, that they're going to these clinics. And even after just one appointment, they're being put on puberty blockers. They're on this long sort of train towards having, if they're a girl, having their breasts removed. Boys often having, the other bits removed and goodness knows what. But they're not giving fully informed consent. A lot of the time, they're too young. A lot of the time, they're often children who've got other huge number of mental health issues, or they are on the autism spectrum. They're unable to consent. And again and again, these documents reveal something you and I have discussed a million times, that so many youngsters and their parents are not aware of what the impact of these drugs are. Oh, it's just going to delay puberty. It's just going to, do this. Actually, these are drugs which will render children inevitably infertile in their later years, unable to ever have sexual enjoyment, ever experience an orgasm, and have a massive impact on other aspects of their health, brain development, bone density, and goodness knows what. But if you discuss this, you're just a transphobe.
I mean, the extraordinary thing is that WPATH say all this stuff publicly. Like, if you look at, they produce things they call standards of care. They're on the 8th version, and the last version that came out last year. It's not like these files tell us something that we couldn't have seen just by looking at the standards of care. It's an incredibly ideological document. It's got an entire chapter on what it claims is eunuch gender identity. It claims that little baby boys can be born with the identity of a eunuch. And that would mean that you would castrate them. I mean, it's absolutely extraordinary.
A man without his testicles,
Exactly. That this might be something that's an innate identity as opposed to a grotesque human rights abuse that was perpetrated, for example, in Imperial China. I mean,
but this is
it's
really
so shocking.
Terrifying stuff. I mean, this is about, and again, I'm really happy, and I'm sure you're very happy, that you can call us whatever names you want to call us online. We don't care, because we know we're on the right side of history, because we're old-fashioned. We're against the medicalisation and mutilation of children. I mean, if that puts me on the, if that gets me abused, fair enough. I'm happy to live with that. I'll take that, because I just want not a single more child to go through this. we know, and this is something the LGB Alliance, the Lesbian, Gay and Bi Alliance, have talked about again and again. So there's so much awareness, and these documents reveal this. How often the children who are the teenagers who are arriving at these clinics and seeking help, so often they actually are gay, and they or gay, lesbian. And if they were, but they feel anxious about it, their families are uncomfortable about it for religious reasons or whatever. And actually, if they were just told, yeah, you're probably gay, and that's fine, carry on and live your
Yeah.
life,
Yeah.
they would be absolutely fine.
So what it looked to me when I read these files, and I've been thinking quite hard about this for about 6 years now. And so in one way, I thought I'm not going to be surprised. And then when I read what's there, it's like 80 pages of messages. It really reminded me of the phrase, the banality of evil. People looking for, uh, how do I do this operation better, rather than ever asking themselves, why should I do this operation? Why am I doing this? They're talking about people who have, who say that they've got 8 multiple personalities, and talking about getting consent from all of them before they cut off their genitals. I mean, instead of
God.
saying this person is seriously mentally ill, of course we shouldn't cut off their genitals.
We wouldn't be if
So I
they didn't
really
want their
hope that
arm,
this
we
is the
wouldn't be
crack.
cutting off their arms. I don't know why people think it's
No.
any different.
Well, it's worse in some ways. I mean, it's a very sensitive part of the body, But if this is the thing that helps to bring it down, because WPATH, for all that it's just this membership body that has no actual legitimacy as a proper medical organisation, it's incredibly influential globally, partly because of that name, but it's cited right through the NHS. The standards of care is mentioned in trust documents, in the Tavistock, by governments. They always say international best practice is what means we have to do this here to our children, to our vulnerable people, and they cite WPATH.
Helen Joyce, you've been such an amazing advocate on this. She's author of Trans and Director of Advocacy at Sex Matters. Thank you for explaining all that to